Good evening. So, the first thing I want to do this evening is remove my horrible on-error resume next code from the validation behavior. So, what I shall do to do that is I'm going to try and use structure map's ability to automatically populate IEnumerables. So what that means is, rather than taking in a func here, we can change this to be an IEnumerable or an array. I think we'll go with IEnumerable for now, or IEnumerator if I mistype it. Right, IEnumerable, and all we shall do is fix that, change this to be IEnumerable also, and now down here, instead of this try catch, what we can do is say var validator equals validator.first or default. And let's actually rename that field, because it's not validator, it's validators. And now we just say, if validator is not null, do some validation. And this collection will be empty if there are no validators. Now, as we've registered everything in the mediator registry of Connect implementations, I think this will work for after, but I don't know for sure. So I'm just going to run it and find out. And let's make sure we're in the right project. Run that. Oh, and switch to presentation mode. Really should remember that before I actually start doing anything. And as usual, we're going to use the REST test client here, and we can get away with just doing a GET request to the root of the API, because that'll still invoke a behavior, and it'll also invoke a behavior, one of the command handlers, which doesn't have a validator associated with it. That's a really strange error. Considering I haven't changed anything. Let's try building that again. Let's go up here and just do advanced build actions, clean solution. And then build solution. Right. Well, that is actually the same error that the AppFair build is giving now. So that's interesting. I wonder how I fix that. I need a reference to Net Standard version 2, but I was pretty sure Net Core App implied Net Standard version 2. That's weird. Where's that build window gone? I can't remember what it shortcut key for the build window was. Alt 0, there we are. Right. Can we copy from this? I think we're going to have to do some Googling. Don't need that. Let's just do that part of the error message. Well, I'm glad other people were getting it. Remove runtime framework version. Okay, I didn't think I had that in place anywhere, but I don't. Yep. Right, okay, so neither of those I have. I wonder if I can force it to use that. Actually, let's see if the command line build works. Nope. Right. It is the timing behavior that is doing this. Which is in the main assembly. Well, in that case, let's try doing this. What the hell is going on? And this literally built last night when I was streaming. Then I stopped streaming, watched some YouTube videos, went to work, came home, and then tried to build it and it broke. I love stuff like this. Considering that's touched nothing related, let's stash it and just check. Oh, well, okay. Right. Clean DXN. If in doubt, clean everything. What are we going to remove? Nothing I care about, right? DXF. Right. Build. Actually, let's just do it manually. .NET restore. Okay. Let's find out what happens when we build it. What the hell? cope with warnings. Right, build. Worked on the command line, should work in Rider. Castle core, I'm not even, okay, something inside that's probably doing it. Okay, not going to worry about those. Right, now that that works, git status, nope, no change, git stash pop, and we'll go back to what we were trying to do a second ago. Let's just see if that builds now. Which project was that decorator in? It was that one. Right. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go back to testing the REST service. Cool, so that actually worked. Let's try doing a post as well, because that has a validator. So we'll do a post with that text, application JSON to toggles, and we get the validation exception. Excellent, that is much nicer. And even in the future, if you wanted to have multiple validators, you could now manage it. So if you had 3 separate validators for create toggle request for some reason, this would at least have all of them in this collection. So you could then rewrite this to run all the validators, aggregate the messages, and if any of them fail, throw. But that'll do for now. So this is validation behavior. God, I want to put a U in that so badly. Remove kludge for validation objects. Right, now that we've got that out of the way, now we actually have some validation. We can now start doing some post methods on these. So we've done this, we have that working, we have a get method for a toggle view, we have the get for state, and I think it's time to deal with posting and deleting state. Now, do we have anything written for that already? Update state. Ah yes, and we refactored everything so we had a switch on by default type. So when you post some value, that's adding to the collections, and when you delete, that's removing from the collections. Which will work differently for anonymous, I think, because the rest of them are collections. So we have a request and a response that doesn't have anything in it yet. Ah yes, and we were considering what to do with our responses, because we would quite like to return the actual state, but as our projections might be happening asynchronously, although by doing that, for our time being, we can do session load projection toggle all toggles, do that, and now we can grab the relevant toggle from the projection, and as they're synchronous, we are guaranteed that it exists. So we can just do single okay, there we go, where view dot id equals toggle dot id. I'll call that TV and that TV. Now that we have the view, we can now do this and say state equals view state. And if we go into this class, just uncomment that. And now we'll get the state back from here. So if we find our test for this, which is that, now the downside is we're grabbing a projection, but we haven't set up this session. Do we have? Well, we have an in-memory one actually. And are we ever? We're not ever asserting off the session or from the storage. So we'll inline off that. Do we want to assert on the session or the storage though? No, I think not. If we use the in-memory one, we can grab the events out of that just as easily. So in fact, let's do this. We'll go var storage equals new in memory storage, and that's just to make that work. We can get rid of that. Don't need a session. Don't need that. We do, however, need a session briefly so that we can put in our test data. So storage.begin session. And we can do session save toggle. Right. Update toggle state request has no constructors defined. No, Ryder, you're lying to me because I've moved the file. I wonder if the tests work now that I've scrubbed and rebuilt everything. Kinda nice if they did. Mm, 37 gig free. Good. Just figured I'd check that I'm not running out of hard drive space again, because that was annoying last time. Right, let's try running the tests. Maybe it will work. That would be nice. No, maybe not. Oh well, worth checking. Right, let's run all the tests. So that's our test script. Two failing. Update toggle state handler tests, which is this file. Line 48. Right. No builder found. Yes, that's probably accurate. Storage dot register builder events toggle dot load from. Still don't know what we're going to put in that. Probably shouldn't have implemented that straight away, considering I still have no idea what we're going to do for our fetching users. Do we ever use that events? Yes, but we shouldn't be. Now, can we actually get the events directly from anything? No. Might be useful to be able to get the events out of this. I think what we'll do is take in a dictionary of events, like that. And now we can do underscore events. Let's do this actually. Underscore events. Create a field. And now we can set up the field. There. Right. So when the toggle doesn't exist, so we'll do this. We'll take hold of our ID, and rather than asserting that the events are empty, we just say events should not contain key toggle ID. And instead, here we take the toggle ID and we say we've got one event in there, which is the creation. So I think if we do select e.getType should be new array type of toggle created, type of toggle switched on for anonymous. think we're going to end up doing this quite a lot, so we shall probably refactor that into something a little more useful. But let us run the tests for just the domain. So .NET test source crispin.test crispin.test csproj. Lots of explosions. Yes, that's actually right. That's the advantage of using a real implementation of the storage, is that our fake one that we were using didn't account for the fact that it should throw an exception if the aggregate didn't exist. What's that one's problem? Or do we do that, 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 and that? Throw async. No, don't replace the whole blasted thing. So not only should that throw an exception, but also we shouldn't have had anything written to the storage. Okay, that's one. Did we have one or two test failures? Two. And so that was the first one. I'm going to make this full screen so we actually get decent stack traces. I'm now updating the toggle with no current state. Yep, so this one wasn't able to find a toggle with that ID. Well, it should have been able to. No, it shouldn't have. Not like that, it shouldn't have done. So instead, we'll do that. We need to restructure this. So rather than loading a toggle, we are creating a new one. And say underscore toggle ID equals toggle.id. Get rid of surplus brackets. What's your problem? Oh, you want to be read-only. Okay, that's fine. Good. Right, now that should be more working. Or not. Ah, no projection registered. Storage dot register projection. And we don't actually need to keep a reference to it. We can just do that. So we don't want to test that the projection works. We have other tests that cover that already. Getting closer. When updated with no current state. Oh, I've put the wrong event in there. That would explain that. Was that the only error? Did we get 1 or 2 failures? 2. God, these stack traces is hard to read. When a toggle doesn't exist. Through a generic key not found exception. Well, yes. That's what I'm expecting to happen. Why are you failing then? 45. Yep, that's correct. Should throw key not found exception. Maybe it's the async getting in the way. Do that. That. Ambiguous task reference. Are you sure that's ambiguous? Because I'm pretty sure it's not. Or do you even need that? Because if I do that and that, it will return a task. Is this rider being silly? Or is this actually a build error? Just rider being silly. Great. And let's rerun our tests again. That's better. Right, so let's add the tests first. What tests are these? These are update toggle state handler tests refactor to use real in memory storage. Right. And then and to commit that we actually need to add the in-memory storage as well. And as I meant to commit that in the last thing, what? So I've managed to truly break my bash window yesterday. And I have no idea how. But as you can see, I don't have a cursor anymore in it. Sometimes it just feels like I'm fighting tooling. Let's do git pending. Well, apparently I managed to amend it anyway. That's weird. Right. So update toggle handler, use projection to return new state. Now this won't work if we use asynchronous projections, because if we go into the handle method, if we use an asynchronous projection, it'll be kicked off here, but we're loading the projection instantly afterwards, so it might not be up to date at this point. So another way would be to build this state view from the in-memory version of the toggle, but I haven't got anything to implement that with yet, and if I don't switch to using asynchronous projections, then this will be fine to start with. So I'm going to leave it as is until it becomes a problem. Right, so we've got an anonymous user and we've got toggles not existing. We'll just call this for anon, no mouse. So now let's add some tests for other things. If I could type, that would help. So when updating a toggle with no current state for a user. So this is going to be very similar to this, in fact almost identical. The difference is we'll set that one to null, and this is for a user, so we'll say users. Now what type is this? A dynamic call, because Rider has forgotten how to find this type. Users is a dictionary of string boolean, so that's one of these. So this is the user's name, so user1, and a boolean of whether we want the toggle to be considered on or off for them. So in our case, true. Oh, and as that's a constructor, I have to actually write that out. That. Then this is the same, except it'll be switched on for user. And we might also want to assert we have the correct user written into this as well. I think we definitely do want to do that. Let's first extract this into a method. No, that's a variable. And we'll call this get event types for in fact we don't even need to pass in the toggle ID, because that's a member level variable already. So we'll just do that. And we'll use an expression body as well. Move it up to the top of the class. And now we can use this event types like that here as well. And so we will do the same kind of method. This will be just events. It is a list of events, so we'll just do that. And this time no select. So here we can also say events.last. And as we want to check that single event, I can just do of type toggle switched on for user single that, in fact, is going to be in here. Yeah, like that. Except we're going to give it T event parameter. Do that. And rather than turn an IEnumerable, you get that instead. Where? No, just needs a T there. So now we can say event toggle switched on for user dot user should be user ID parse user -1. And the reason this remains a string is that I've not updated it. This shouldn't be a string, this should be a user, no, this should be a group ID. And this should be a user ID. That and that. So if we do that, var user ID, pull this up to the top. User ID. So, emitting a single event, we should, or emitting a single handle one user request should yield a toggle created event, which is already there, and a toggle switch on for user event, and that toggle switch on for user event should have the user that we passed in. Now let's do the same, but we will switch off for user. You know, I'm going to rename these tests when switching off on for a user. We might be able to refactor these as well later to user theory and just pass in a bunch of parameters. That's not ISP off. False. So this should be a switched off for user, as should this. Right, let's run these tests. Now these should fail because we haven't implemented anything yet. So I'm hoping to see 2 test failures. Yep. So we only had a toggle created event in both cases. Right, so let's go and implement this logic. So we've got this anonymous handled. And now we want to say message dot users for each. I'm sure there used to be an extension method on here. It's probably from another library. Oh well. For each. Let's say user state. So for each one of these, if user state dot value toggle dot switch on user state dot key, and that's it. Otherwise, toggle dot switch off for the user. should be all for that. So we should only have... No, we shouldn't have any failures now. Oh, but we do. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Update toggle to state handler. Line 36. Because this we are passing nulls in. So let's go to that. I don't want to allow nulls really, but I don't want people to have to specify dictionaries if they're not going to do anything. So I think we'll leave that in place, like that, and just delete that. I shall not set that, it's nullable. We'll do that, new dictionary for both, and we'll give these setters as well. You don't get to set the toggle ID, apart from the constructor. So now in our tests, where we now have all these lovely errors, we can delete these two lines, and this now changes, so we'll move the toggle ID up to the constructor, and start the object initializer, and move that in here. That. What's your problem? There we are. Too much JavaScript recently. Right, so we'll take that. And paste it here. And instead of that, we'll say users equals brackets that bit. Because it's an object initializer, now we don't even need to specify that it's a dictionary. Just do it all in one line. Alright, that'll do for that. And the one below is identical apart from the user is set to false. Much nicer. And we can get rid of all those. And we might have a build failure because we have just changed the constructor for a message. I'm not sure if we're actually emitting that message from the API yet. Clearly we are. Now, at some point we're going to need to check if these values are null or not, because the handler will blow up if they are null, and we don't want that. Do that. Do that. Anon groups users. Now we do actually need to project these because our model that comes in has got strings in it. Now I might be able to get away with changing the model to use user ID and group ID, but I'm not certain, because the serializer that we're going to use is JSON.NET behind the scenes, and we've already decorated our various IDs with JSON convert thing. So if we're lucky, it will automatically work. But we'll have to actually test it, like by running the API rather than writing unit tests, because we need to check serialization from an actual API perspective rather than passing in a constructed object. So let's run the tests again once this build's done. Much better. Right, and now that we've done that, let's run the API. And try making a request to this. So we're going to use the REST tester. We're going to create ourselves a toggle first. Great, we have a created toggle. So now if we go to that path, should probably do a get instead. Right, we now have our response back. Now we should be able to append /state and get the state. So now we should be able to post to this. And we're going to want to do a user. And we also, we're not actually querying groups yet, so we can get away with only doing a partial request. So we'll do a post. Let's edit this request. So here we have users equals a hash containing user-1 true, user-2 false. And because I hit escape, I have to type that all again. Users user-1 true, user-2 false. Let's not hit escape this time. Yeah, that might work. Right, errors. But what was it? Let's clear this buffer and post it again. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Toggles controller, line 67. Well, that's weird. Because the model must have been null then. Yeah. Let's see if we're missing anything. Post, we've said application JSON, we specified some text, and we specified all of this. Well, I think the easiest way to test this would be to fill out the rest of the model. Groups is null. Anonymous is true. Okay. What? Yes, undo typing. What the hell? toggle up. What the actual hell? Well, that was strange. The typing from the tool window went straight into the overwriting of that. Lovely. Right, anonymous true, users, user 1 true, user 2 false, groups empty. Right, host. Still errors. Let's clear it again because this is a horrible text window that you can't scroll with keys, you have to use the mouse. Model state is invalid. Oh, I'm an idiot. That's what it is. Right, let's hope that I can type in this. So when submitting JSON, it helps if you submit valid JSON. Usually. And in my case, I should have named my property properly. Let's get rid of that. I think we're going to need to write another validator type decorator that will pick up these kind of things. Right, well, what's the error this time? Clear buffer, like that. Model state is invalid. Well, that's a shame. Are you sure? That's valid JSON, isn't it? I'm 99% sure that's valid JSON. Post. Why is the model? Is this because it can't handle the fact that although I've decorated these with the JSON converter, it can't handle this. So if I do that, and then in here we now have to do .toDictionary pair groups parse pair.key pair pair.value. We'll just copy that to there and change that to a user ID. And rerun. Right, I'm just going to post to this because it'll blow up with another error anyway, but I want to see if it actually has valid model state this time. Model state is valid. Unable to find an aggregate with that ID. Right, so this time, if I just copy that so I don't have to type it again, we replace this with name test. We make a request to the root by posting that. And this time we will make another post with that body back in it. Let's get rid of that. Like that. state. Actually, let's do a get. Please don't clear out that. Thank you. Right, anonymous false, users and groups is empty. So if we now change to a post that text, get a server error. Right, good, okay. What's his problem this time? Model state is valid. Value cannot be null source. Right, so we do need to specify that for now. That tells us where our validation needs to go, or our protection of null properties. So we'll do groups. Is that. And post again. There we are, 200, okay. And we got state back this time. So, anonymous true, user 1 true, user 2 false. If we now do a get request, we should get the same thing back. Not quite, because we messed up the property. But hey, at least we know everything works now. Now at this point, we're going to need to start doing mapping from models to these requests, and we need to be able to protect against these being null, because I don't want to force the end user to fill those out if they're not going to use them. So what I'm wondering is, can I set a default and have that honored? So I do users equals new dictionary of string bool, groups equals new dictionary of string bool, and now if I go back to the run dialog, rerun that, and again I will just post directly to that because I'm interested in the error here, not the error in the root. So I expected an error, but did I get the right one? Model state is valid. Unable to find, yeah, so we can default things like that. That's fine by me. Right, let's have a look at our tests. Let's add the Crispin project. And do CM, and let's add Crispin.tests. Yep, so update toggle state handler, implement update for users, and do that. It's in toggles controller fix serialization of post state. Great. So if we go back to our handler tests, I think our last task of the evening will just be to implement groups, because that should be nice and quick. So we replace the word user with group in the test name. Rename that to group ID. Do that. That. Group. Group. So this should now be group right. So those tests should fail. which they do. And now if we go into our handler, to be honest, let's just delete that and that because I don't like extra brackets. So we'll do that, that. And implement group state. And we can get rid of that as well, actually. I don't like how repetitive that is, but we can try and refactor that later. So let's run our tests again, which should now pass. Because we're using strongly typed variables in here, we have a group ID, which means that when we call switch on with a group ID, it calls the relevant overload. So that's calling this overload. And everything passes. So update toggle state handler implement groups. And all we need to do now is in our post here say we've now implemented that. Readme update tasks. Great. Now we might want to refactor this. I don't like how repetitive these two blocks are. It's quite a large handler now. But I'm not quite sure how the best way to go about that is. It's not like we can combine user state iteration and group iteration because we have different types here. We have user ID versus group ID. I'd almost be tempted to have a single method for this bit at least. So instead of doing that, we could just do change switch user state dot value and just have that. That would be better. In fact, I quite like that. Yes, I think we will go for that actually. So we'll do the same thing here, except it's group state. And this now actually can be called toggle change default state. Message.anonymous value. No. That's marginally better. So if we now go into the toggle, into toggle, so our methods are these. Now I quite like keeping these, so I can either add 3 overloads or 3 new methods which just call the relevant one of these themselves, or we could do it as an extension method. I think I prefer the extension methods because it's really just syntactic sugar more than actual behavioral things. Also means we don't have to change any tests because I wouldn't want to keep these and keep the other ones. And that would involve changing all the tests and then putting logic in to emit the relevant event on or off. I don't know. I actually don't like that method name. I've never liked it. So we'll do public void change default state. Bool new state. Do that, and then just say apply event new state question mark. So if it's true, new toggle switched on for anonymous. Otherwise, new toggle switched off for anonymous. Oh, and of course it can't figure out how to cast them. That's annoying. In which case we'll just... I could cast them. Do that. You don't technically need to put it on both lines, but I think it reads a bit better if you do. Yeah. Alright, now this should break some other things, because I have tests for that method. But we need to fix the other one. What do we call it? Change switch. I can actually call it change state. Yeah, sure, why not? I'm going to leave the switch on and switch off, I think, for these, because those might be useful later. So we have that, no, change state, user ID, user bool new state. This would be ideal for pattern matching if we could just do something like new state, true does this, false does something else. But we're not there yet, so can I call methods based on a boolean? Can I do new state question mark switch on user, switch off user? Why not? Why can't I do that? Very helpful. Thank you for that refactoring. Oh well. Do this. If new state. Can you not do those as part of a lambda then? Well, that's rubbish. No. Yeah, that's fine. Let's put that above that one. And we'll do the same thing again, but this time it's a group ID. Group. Don't do that. It's not a real keyword. You know what? I've changed my mind. I'm going to put them all together. That. I might make those extension methods later. Especially as these aren't called anyway yet. Might just get rid of that entirely. I mean, effectively, I could just do this. We only have one set of build errors, which is the switch on calls which are used. That should be easy enough to find and replace. So we'll find switch on fault, replace it with new state true, because that's a little better to read. I'll do that. Oh, I got that wrong, didn't I? And that is change default state. Right, and now we have two switch ons, so these are now change state true. See, that's why I don't like methods like this, because what does true mean? I'd rather use an enum. So you could have, I don't know, state dot on. It's more expandable for the future, and it's more readable. You have an explicit, this is what the change is, as opposed to true or false, which could mean anything. Hence why here I use the named argument syntax, so that I can put that in. That's a refactoring for another time, I think. So, assuming these all build, succeeded false, errors 2. Oh, okay, change state. Is that on or off? On. Switch off by default. Change default state, new state, off. See, I even want to type off in there. I think we will do that refactoring afterwards. But if we do that refactoring, we then lose the benefit of our single line. Well, maybe. Yeah. Yes, because if we do that refactoring, it means that our single lines here now have to cast a boolean something. Although it's the request, so that boolean cast could be done elsewhere. Right, that all built, so let's test everything. And then for the last 10 minutes I think we'll investigate the ability to switch those true falses to an enumeration. Besides, I think these messages, those methods are going to have to change anyway. Because I have the concept of on or off for a user, but you might want to remove whether they're flagged as on or off entirely. So you might not want to expose the boolean to the API anyway. You might want to actually have an enumeration. That would certainly simplify things. I think that refactoring is going to be a bit bigger than I thought. Alright, let's just check what we changed. So toggle refactor switching methods. I think as that refactoring is going to be quite a bit bigger than I was expecting, because I'm going to have to change all of the API methods and everything that flows through. I think it's going to take more than 9 minutes, which means I think I'm going to stop here for this evening. So I shall push the changes to GitHub. The AppFair build might even work now that I fixed the weird build error on my local machine. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so all the source code is available on my GitHub, which is github.com/ponderdom/Crispin. If you have any questions or just want to have a dig through, that's fine. Questions can be sent GitHub. I think there's an email address on there, or Twitter is fine. Yeah, thanks for watching and have a pleasant rest of your evening.